evening everybody, Car Biker here. And I've had a day off today, day off work, but not for riding. Although I'm riding now of course, and that in front of me is Graham Adventures with Woody. And we're doing a bit of a shakedown ride. I've spent the morning, well not the morning, the end of the morning, most of the morning was getting ready and then chatting. So the afternoon really with Graham. But I say, rather than being riding, we've been doing the second best thing you can do with a motorbike. Been spannering an engine. I have to say, spannering is great fun. But his Woody, his little 250, was having a few problems. Last time I saw it, I was helping him doing his chain, adjusting the chain. It was a bit loose and he just wanted a bit of an assistance doing it because he'd not done it before. And while I was doing that, I noticed that the rear brake, I don't know if binding is the right word for it, but if you spun the wheel, the rear wheel, you could feel that it would grab the brake once a turn, and it'd be really free one part of the wheel and then the brake would grab it a little bit later on. And I was worried that the disc was warped. We knew the wheel was aligned properly because I'd just done it. But I was worried that the disc was warped or something else was going on. So I said, when you got a bit of time, we'll have a look at it. And then I got ill, so I couldn't look at it. And I thought I'd take a day off. I had a day in lieu that I've earned from doing a weekend install on a 5 o'clock Sunday miserable morning. So I thought I'll have my day off in lieu and we'll have a look at this wheel. And in the meantime, it was clear that the chain that we'd adjusted was on its way out. I mean, it needed adjusting again already, so it was definitely on its way out. So Graham bought a new chain, fancy schmancy gold one, much better quality than the old one, a lot wider, although the specifications are the same, although it was a few links too long, so we had to cut some links out of it. But a wider chain and much stronger. It definitely looks the business. It's a gold chain as well, so it appeals to his love of shiny things. Oh, he's stopping. This means it's either horribly gone wrong or he likes it. We'll find out in a second, and then I'll carry on with the video.
What was that universal symbol for?
Well, I was just thinking, is that something's gone horribly wrong?
No. I just thought, press the top box, I could hear it.
All right.
I thought, what was that? No, that's winker, isn't it?
You could always hear it. It's just you couldn't hear it before over the noise of the wheel.
It's brilliant.
You like it?
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's just a different bike. It's unbelievable.
Excellent.
Yeah. Absolutely unbelievable.
Super.
It's a lot quicker off the mare.
But
It's not a fast bike.
because that it would be that brake though.
It's just better all round. I'm really impressed with it.
Cool.
Really.
So everything is okay. Where was I? Oh yes, he's got a much better quality chain. So we've done the chain and sprockets. Fascinating. He's never done the sprockets on it, and he was saying about how before he had it, he doesn't think it's had any maintenance. Maybe it has, and it's not been very good, or maybe it hasn't, and things have come loose. But the little bolts that hold the front sprocket cover on, they were really loose. But that's okay, they're only tiny little bolts, you know, you don't want to put a lot of pressure on them anyway. But then the front sprocket was barely on. It has that standard arrangement of a big old nut, I think it was a 22mm nut. And then the washer behind it that you bend over. So the washer's kind of got the castellated, I think they call it, inner hole thing. All the technical terms, I know them all, you know. That means that the washer can't turn, and then you bend the washer over the nut so the nut can't turn. And if it didn't have that, I think it would have been in bits, because I got the breaker bar ready knowing that these things are often a pain, and I was getting excited thinking I'm finally going to get to use my new air-powered ratchet, not ratchet, what do you call them, impact gun. And basically I put the breaker bar on it and it just turned, and it was loose. absolutely loose. But anyway, we popped that off, changed that. Got a bit of rust off that, but it wasn't too bad. All the things you hear about Chinese bikes about how they just fall apart, well, it had a little bit of surface rust, but just brushed off with a wire brush. So I did chain and sprockets. Then we had a look at the brake and the one that was binding a bit, and that basically the caliper that is a floating caliper wasn't floating, and it looks like it's basically just jammed up. The two pin bolt things that the pads slide on, they were really quite badly rusted. But again, surface rust, it was enough to stop the pads sliding nicely. But it just sanded away and left us with nice, smooth, not pitted pins, so we carried on using them. But it looks like the pins had kind of jammed up on there, stopping the pads moving properly, and that was stopping the whole caliper floating properly. And it was also meaning that the pads, when the piston pushed on the back, the pins are at the top, and it looks like that meant that instead of pushing in smoothly on the pads would actually kind of bend round, and the pads had ground away in a really weird pattern, so the bottom of the pads had almost gone, whereas the top looked like it had plenty of meat left on it. So we changed the pads, cleaned up the pins, cleaned up all the nuts and bolts, greased everything, put it all back together again, and then we took out the chain adjusters, which were quite rusty. It does appear that water can get inside the swing arm on that thing, so cleaned all them up. One of them was weirdly bent and jamming on the swing arm. Don't forget, Graham, that where that pinched, you're going to want to put a little bit of black paint on so it doesn't rust, because it has taken the paint off the swing arm a bit, and that was stopping one of the adjusters moving. So a lot of things had kind of just jammed up and gone a bit weird. But the joy of that little bike, and I have to agree with him, it is a little joyful bike. Everything on it's easy, simple to fix. So we've now got a wheel that wouldn't spin freely, that is spinning beautifully freely. It was making a load of racket before, that we couldn't quite work out what the racket was, but that's all gone. He says it's not feeling anything on the brake anymore. It actually feels like it's accelerating quicker, which is not surprising, because basically it was like accelerating with your foot resting on the brake. And then the only thing that we found on top of that, which was a weird spot at the end, was that the chain guard is actually slightly the wrong shape. It's slightly too tall on the inside, and it was actually resting on top of the chain. So that was also making a racket. So we've been proper Heath Robinson. I got my Dremel out and cut a piece off his chain guard for him on the inside. You can't see it from the outside, so still looks as good. But we've took a strip off that, and now that's not binding on the chain either. So as you saw, so I'll leave that bit in. When we stopped, he's very happy with it, and it's obviously making a lot less rattly noise than it used to make, because he could hear that he's left his top box open. But yeah, it's as I said before, it's the second best thing about having a bike, I think, is the Spannering, and that's opened my eyes. One thing they say about these bikes is that they're very much like a classic bike with the older technology. And it really does open my eyes to thinking I'd love to have a bit of a go at a classic bike, just to do the Spannering on the way it used to be before everything got electronic-ified up. If you don't do your own Spannering, I heartily recommend it. And what can I say? Recommend doing it with a friend, because I've done lots of stuff with Tosh, and a bit of Danny, and a bit with Graham. And when you're doing it with a friend, you can have a good natter, a couple of cups of tea or coffee, and fix things at the same time. What better way is there to spend an afternoon? I was going to say at that point, let me know in their comments, but I fear what the answer to that question could be. It was rhetorical. Please don't answer that question. I'll just say thank you for watching, everyone. Ride safe, and I'll talk to you all again soon.